Candace Hunter. He's a collagist, and she, do you remember, right? She's
Yes, love Candace, love Candace.
Yes, so we have her solo show in March, and then April we have different student groups actually having a show from the artists of Chicago, and then May is the one that we have an incubation program. So one of the artists we worked together for about 3 years. She's having a solo show here as part of the APA festival to have that, and then we have a Latinx festival also in September.
Yeah, so you all see like rooted in community, and it's actually interesting. So I kind of go back to where I started. I started painting almost 5 years ago to the day, December 23rd, 2020, which is interesting. I started painting, the story kind of came out of a cathartic moment. I actually was up to be state rep in the 26th district. State Rep Cam Buckner is that current state rep. I had just gotten Chicago Scholars. I got a call from a few folks who knew that Christian Mitchell was going to step down, Deputy Governor, now Lieutenant Governor Christian Mitchell, and they asked if I was interested in the seat, and I said, I'll think about it. Most people that know me, know I'm very vocal about politics and democracy, and I believe in justice is kind of the rubric of that. And folks have always thought I was going to run for office. And so I sat down with this gentleman who was a good friend of mine. We met at this small little neighborhood bar and wine bar, coffee shop, 16th Street. And he asked me a question. He said, if you get this role, how are you going to manage stress? And I told him jokingly, I wanted to get back into art. That like as a kid, I used to love to draw, and that I wanted to try my hand in painting. And he was like, cool. All right, what else? And I was like, well, then there's basketball. And he was like, well, you're too old to hoop, so you probably should try art. And unfortunately, the very next day, which was the day before, I think it would have been his 41st birthday, he had aneurysm and passed away. Brother's name was Brian Sleep. So I went in the back, got home, and you're dealing with these feelings and trying to process grief. And I got canvases out the back of my house. So I had bought canvases like a year earlier. And I'm sure many of you in this room probably have something you said, I want to do this. You started investing in it, and you just don't touch it. And I didn't touch it for a year, but at that time, hello, welcome, come on in. I ended up getting the canvas out the back. I painted something, and it was absolutely awful. It was awful. I still have it, but I felt better. And I continued to paint. And I painted for like off and on in private on a little card table for about a year. And then that year I created pieces I didn't show a lot of folks. I would give stuff away to family and friends. And it was the next year, kind of that fall, I was right before my 40th birthday in September. My mother had to have a surgery at Mayo Clinic. Big surgery, like a 14-hour, 5 surgical team surgery. And she was having that surgery, and I had painted the background of something, just practicing. I would practice like over COVID and during like those times, I would go on YouTube and I would watch videos of like different techniques. I would play with all the different types of mediums. I would play with the different types of paints. I would try sketching. I would practice sketching. There's an app called Draw Every Day. So I want to like practice drawing. It gives you things to draw. So it got me back in the habit of drawing. And while my mom was having the surgery, I painted something. And I was waiting to hear if she kind of made it through the surgery. When I heard that she made it through the surgery, I looked at the background of the piece, and I was going to throw it in the garbage. I was like, okay, this is cool, it's back, it's practice. And, I'm a person of faith, so I heard, and I tell people, I heard God very clearly. It was like, don't throw that away, Ruby Bridges. Now, I can't tell you, like, why Ruby Bridges. I can't tell you, like, was it connected to my mom's journey? But all I could see was the little image of Ruby in the Norman Rockwell piece, where it has, the N word next to her, right, in that piece. And I said, well, I've never loved that piece. I don't like it because I think it really disrespects the narrative of who Miss Bridges is. So I painted her in like a hip hop kind of graffiti style. And I used a K65 tagging marker, and I put the word Queen next to it. I shared that piece online, went to sleep. The next day I woke up and it had 40,000 likes. Now this is again at a time like this is George Floyd, after the murder of George Floyd, this is happening. I live in Bronzeville, so the neighborhood was going through a lot of upheaval. Painted that piece, did that, when it trended, folks started asking where they could buy it. And I had no idea at the time how to do all of that. So I called a few friends, the artist White, another brother named Rico the Great artist, actually Sister Jennifer Hodges, who's in the show downstairs. And between all of them, they gave me kind of tips and tricks on like how to professionalize artisan practice. I learned a lot on the way. I made a lot of mistakes along the way, but I figured out very quickly how to build prints of that piece and start to sell that piece. I still own that piece, and that piece has been in Chicago PD, it's been in Issa Rae's show, it's been in 2 movies, the Met bought it, it's been all over the world. Brown University had it on display for a while. The crazy part about the piece is the original is 16 by 20. It's small, but even just like last week, a judge in New York ordered a 60 by 44 version of it for their chambers in their courtroom. And that piece to date, right? Yeah, and it requires me to like redo dimensions. For those who I know, some creators in the room, I've had to redimension that piece multiple times for different things, but it's gone everywhere. And that piece actually is the one I talk about being in 9 countries and in 4 continents. That piece is in 9 countries and 4 continents. I've never been to Poland, I've never been to Portugal. It sits in those places. And so I kept going. And that show was really the first show that I did kind of during COVID. I had a show and an opportunity. Come on in, y'all. My brother.
Oh, Fortune House.
Yes.
I mentioned, but we didn't get.
Outstanding. Fortune House in the hood. You got that stuff. So, yeah, this is family. Y'all pull up, go in, grab a seat, grab a water, grab whatever y'all want. This is open. I won't be long. My mom's a minister. She's a little long-winded. I'm not. I'm sorry, Mom. But yeah, I kept going and kept painting, and I was really fortunate enough to have the power of community. You'll hear that rooted in a lot of what I talk about with art behind me. And so, you know, my first show was at Gallery 314. I had a show and I was barely still brand new. I had a show at Taste 222 owned by Donna Liz Thompson, who are amazing mentors, and had friends bring me into other shows and projects, and very quickly realized that there was a very organic and kind response to my work and my practice, and people really support it. And you know, I weave a lot of the narratives of what I do for work. So I serve full-time as CEO of Chicago Scholars, which is a 30-year-old college access program that helps first-generation and low-income kids get through college and into college and then through college to jobs. And actually happy to share, we just closed our class of 2031 application yesterday, and we had the most applications we've ever had, 1,300, close to 1,300 applicants. Yeah, it's awesome. And we've expanded our program this year for the first time, where we will bring in about 1,000 students this year, going up from 600. So, you know, impact, justice, education, youth, freedom are consistent narratives and themes in my work, which kind of brings me to this series, The Power of Belief. I started painting this series earlier in the summer. I had done a series of chess pieces last year, and that was the Kingdoms and Crowns series. And I had a solo show during Juneteenth in Atlanta that went really well. And after that show kind of came out of really understanding and wanting to reimagine Black identity in the form of Black sovereignty. Like, we need to play chess, not checkers. And I think in the time we live in now, it's part of the work that I do, but it's also rooted in so much of how I see culture needing to move. We need to be less loud about the strategic things we do and more loud about the injustice. And I think that's how I tied that into the practice and the area of the work. And so after doing that, and that was very kind of direct in terms of my approach, I wanted to show us as kings and queens and strategic on chessboards. I then wanted to kind of dive into hope after that. This last year, I know y'all, for me, it's felt like this 1 year's been 10. Every time we turn around, I feel like there's a challenge to our identity, our history, our voice. I work in education, so it's not lost either. I tell people all the time, I never thought that when I went to Chicago College, I would be a civil rights activist. I do and always do education with social justice, but now I'm often having conversations about the validity of our existence as Black people or Latinx people in this country or brown people. I'm arguing with people that folks deserve the right to an education, things that I thought were inalienable. I thought this was granted to us, and I'm realizing now that it's not. And so the pieces in this series were really defined, were used to define that, to bring hope, to show us kind of what we did as kids, to kind of tie us back to that. So you see like the kite runner, and it's literally like my friends and I flying kites as kids outside. Things that you really don't see young people do anymore. This one's 73rd and Blackstone. My mother is from 7301 South Blackstone. We grew up there at a community church. And it's, the street light is there for a reason. It's, get in before the street light comes on. And the pieces tied through with similar themes. This one and this one, her faith, birth, abundance, the gift of hope. These two pieces actually go together. So he's handing his mother's a chess piece. And that was intentional. It's like I've received it and I'm handing it back. I'm handing my mom the queen because you are a queen. And that look on her was to show like the adoration of my child that is hopefully to live an abundant life. And it's very similar theming and why so many other folks, so many of the head elements are looking up to the skies, faith-based. It's holding a globe. It's literally soar. I can fly and soar. And then the birds are also another consistent narrative in the piece, the three birds, which again represent faith. My background in faith is the Trinity. That's what the birds represent, but also this idea of not being grounded. There's a good book called The Tethered Soul. It talks about clipping and unclipping, like all the things that bind us and keep us tied down, our titles, our jobs, things that we think really help us identify who we are. And that's just not the case. We're so much more as beings. And so these pieces really do lean into that. The week of the show, I won't tell Angela because she's probably gonna laugh at me. The week of the show, I had about half of them. And then the last week, I actually did 1, 2, 3, and 4, the week of the show. And I have a tendency to do that. Like I almost need a goalpost for me to hit to really get active and fire up my creative energy. And another fun fact, I haven't really been able to paint since because I've probably exhausted it. So I've been taking a break, but now I've got shows coming up again and I'm feeling more creative.
But it happens a lot. It's actually in a creative field, like especially as you get comfortable with your work. I think, like as a student, when you're learning and stuff, you just tend to do everything, right? But when you actually have a project or show, that's why I think show is really good. Because sometimes, even as a professional artist, let's say if you don't have a show, you tend not to, put the work there.
That's right.
But if you have some goal, then it actually, I will name it, I know artists that is very established, they created that way too.
Yeah.
So
It's helpful, and I
wish I had it earlier, but
we got you. And it's funny because there's like 5 other pieces that I have that are ready, almost ready, that would have been they're a part of this. There's actually a Harriet Tubman piece. I actually did a Caleb Williams piece, talking about belief and hope, our bears. And I don't normally do a lot of like extra pop culture stuff. I kind of do people I really love, so like Sade, but I did a Caleb Williams piece because I feel like I'm a Bears fan. I thought it was pretty cool. And it matches this aesthetic. So I feel, the next framing of what's coming, I'll have work at South by Southwest in March. I'm taking some pieces there. I just got asked to display. And fingers crossed, but it looks like I'll have work in Martha's Vineyard too, the month of August during Martha's Vineyard. It's fun. I don't even know if it's a film festival, it's Greek Week, that whole month. I don't know what the month is called, but it's a great time to be down there. And then World Art Dubai in April. So I'm not sure if I'll be there physically, but I'm gonna send work. I got somebody that's going to display how I work at World Art Dubai too. So I'll pause, I'll take questions and comments. This is an open dialogue, feel free to ask anything you all wanna know. And if not, water, red wine.
I'm curious, with this piece here, you mentioned 71st and Blackstone being an influence. Were there any other environments or places experiences that also like let us influence with them?
Yeah, thank you. There's another piece that's not here. It's called Sunday in Thomaston, and it's a similar piece. That one was more of a homage to my mom, her sister, and her brother. The Sunday in Thomaston is actually me and my cousins playing in Thomaston, Georgia. So I kind of honor both sides of my family. My mom's side, they're from here. My dad's people are from Atlanta and Molina, Thomaston, Pike County, Georgia. So I wanted to tie that into this too because I'm a firm believer in the power. You know, we talk about this of how important space is. And there's certain spaces. I didn't mention this. The first space that I kind of had on my own, I had a partner and my friend Mike Jew. We were in 3262 South Morgan, which the family owns as well. And it was a really amazing space. And that was 2021. And you talk about space and manifestation. If you look on my IG, there's a picture of me holding this piece called The Journey of a little boy that I still have in storage. And I put on it, I'll have a studio before this year is over. Now, I didn't have any idea where that was going to come from. That was December 1st, we moved in, that following December. The December 31st, that following December, we moved into the space. And we were there for a year and a half during COVID. And that was a difficult time to operate a space, but it was a really cool thing to have this space. Actually, CBS covered and did a feature there on me as a Black history maker, which was wild because I just started painting like 2 years in, and the other Black history makers were Hebrew, Brantley, and Theasphiles in me. And I'm very differential. So I'm like, you talking Mike and Scotty, and I'm like Jud Bushler in this thing, man. But I'm on the team, right? And that's kind of how I viewed it. It's like, this is my opportunity, and Jud hit a shot to win a game, so I'm gonna win this game. And then I moved in here, right across the hall. We were right across the hall for another 2 years. And we would have stayed. I was supposed to have another space in Bronzeville open on 43rd. That's been delayed. And as a space owner in Bronzeville, it's sitting. I'm waiting for permits. Mayor Johnson, I was with him earlier. Mr. Mayor, Mayor, can y'all help me out? We try to get the space together. And again, I love the partnership and the community aspect here. But I live in Bronzeville. I really wanted to be in Bronzeville. So much of this is about like connection to the students and the communities we're from. And so, all of this is influenced by that. This piece obviously is a take on the sanitation workers strike. I'm a man, and again, I think, oftentimes I'll see something that inspires the work, and I think that was probably like some random executive order that got me upset in the middle of the night, and I woke up and started thinking. That happens often too, where I feel something and I start a piece. So, thank you.
Can you talk about SOAR and how it came about, and who is this for these little boys?
Yeah.
Do you see them? Do you know them?
So here's the fun now. This is where y'all might, we can have this dialogue. Somebody wanted to debate me on it last time. So I used to work with photographers, right? I used to stage photo shoots, or I have photographers do my work as reference photos. And there's a few I still partner with. Now I actually use photos of family or my ancestors. I take them and I pull them into Midjourney and I create my own reference photos. I use black and white photos for everything. And the reason I use black and white is because the way I see the shadows, I can see black and white really easy. So if you see like a lot of my black and white stuff, like all of these are black and white, then I turn them to a solid color to create the range in color value. But I can see black and white very quickly. So I have to even like, I can paint you, but I'm going to cut it, convert it to black and white first to do the sketch, see the color ranges. And then I normally paint an underpainting that's light grays and blacks. I convert that into browns. It's a lot of work, but that's the way I can see it. And so I've been using, in all of these, if you look kind of deep, you can see that there's an underpainting under all of them, which I think actually adds to the depth and texture. So I've been using AI as a technologist to create my reference photos. I paint those. I actually am doing something where I'm storing those too. I've got, and I've been writing with each of the pieces. So for a few of the pieces, you look, there's actually corresponding spoken word pieces that go with a lot of these pieces. And I think long term, I want to turn that into some form of a book. But I've been writing that, and I've started a Substack now too. I've been writing a lot about the journey and the current moment in time that we're in. So kind of leveraging those blog pieces, the poems, and the artwork to do some form of a book. And I think I can share, I actually got selected for a book from, what's the name of her gallery out of Georgia? It's Overdue Recognition Gallery. Some of y'all might follow her IG. She's doing a book, 100 artists, Black artists you should know in America. So she picked me for that. It was pretty cool because she picked most of the new, like almost all the new work for that one, which is coming. So she kind of inspired me. I'm working with her publisher. They were like, well, you should think about this too. And I was like, well, I actually want to do a little bit more than just visual. I actually write. I've got stories in there that are about a lot of pieces. There's a set of 12 pieces from a show called Renewed Vision that I did here. That was actually my first like post-COVID show, and that show happened after I was hurt in an attempted car attack and I lost sight in my right eye for a while. I had my face kind of put back together for a little bone rebuild. This is metal, and those pieces, those 12, there are stories tied to every one of those pieces. There's a lot of those were painted like with an eye patch with one eye, like through healing. So I kind of want to mix those stories up and then kind of pull it together and have somebody help me tie that together to make the story cohesive. Yep.
Something I think is interesting is your choice of skin tones.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them are blue, some of them are brown,
Yeah.
gray. Is that a matter of just color composition, or is it something else?
So here's interesting, good call. Originally when I started, so the first piece in the series was this one, right? The first one out the gate. Second one was the one that is not here. Actually, the first two were these two. So the first two were these. So I started with these two, they were small. That was third, but that was the first one where I added the white border around the piece. And then as I come to the promise when they reached, then I had this sword and good trouble. When I did those two, they were intentionally red, white, and blue. And I get in this thing where I'm gonna do all red, white, and blue pieces, and they were all supposed to be red, white, and blue, and then I just didn't feel it. So I am a very intuitive painter, and what my heart says, and you know, being back to say God will shake me up real quick. And what I felt in that was it was supposed to be less about America and the country and more about our identity and our position in the world. So I let go of the red, white, and blue thing, almost in sort of like, we ain't worried about it. We have to do what we have to do to survive. And so that's why I shifted from those two to 7030 Blackstone and the Sunday Thomason. Those color schemes were similar, and then these two as the last two in the series, they were tied together in similar color schemes. Yeah. And I wanted this one to feel like dusk, kind of both of them, like playing as the sun's going down. This is, you know, literally hands full of faith, but like pancake, and like what do we give it energy-wise when we are outside as kids playing with one another? That was really the inspiration of that. So, thank y'all for coming. Appreciate y'all. Look, so this is, again, downstairs, third Friday is coming up next week. You can see all 39 artists. If you all are available, please come back out. It's a great show. It's a lot of great pieces. Young and the team put a lot of work into this. For the camera, you know, thank you to DCase, the OR Foundation. What am I missing in the group?
Well, we get, you know, our council support us. Yeah, and then also we were one of 8 organizations get supported by Elevated Chicago to actually do this festival. Chicago Community Trust as well. So it's, I mean, we're one of lucky organizations in within our programs and getting funded. So thank you.
And I will say that Phil Clement today, who's president of CEO World of Chicago, at a meeting this morning, they have a Chicago 2050 plan. So if y'all haven't seen it, go download it, go over to Chicago, look at this plan. And this is literally like a group of people who are deciding what the future of the city could look like. And I've been adamant about making sure that Black voices and young voices are a part of that plan. And they've done a decent job at that, they could do better. But what I'll say about that is one of the things they added to the plan is a core tenet. The 8th tenet is vibrancy. And the way they define that is art. So for the first time in an economic plan for a major city, now, you see it in Austin, you see like, Phil went and looked at what happened in Austin and Nashville and Detroit, where they actually funded and fueled arts and culture, and it's actually driven economic development and growth in other business sectors throughout the city. That's something now that is happening in Chicago. And I say that as like so many art folks, connected people in the room, entrepreneurs, get connected to that plan, because there are opportunities for it for all of you. And the young lady who's running DCASE right now, Kenya Merritt, is an amazing leader who is really trying to bring voices and equity and create spaces for young talent. I think the Arts Council has a grant open now that's just opened up. There's always stuff on DK site, and part of the challenge is that I actually applied to be a reviewer of some of the grants. We don't apply because we don't think we can get it.
I mean, I love DKs. Because of the DKs, we were able to start the festival back in 2023. That's when we started. And each year we were able to add it on. So the festival actually started with APA.
Yeah.
And then we added Hispanic community. And then last year was our first year doing the Black History Festival. So then we wish that those, the festival can have a cross-cultural dialogue happening. And I think that's how, I learned so much about the queer community because I was kind of even though I do much, it was always kind of a barrier. It was really hard to go outside of the comfort, within the boundaries. So through these festivals, I met so many people and I was able to learn so much. So I think, like you mentioned about economic development, one of the reasons I think we got these Elevate Chicago is because Activation of Morgan, because we start working with like business like Bad Owl, and we're trying to bring the panel discussion to the Bad Owl Coffee House.
Yeah.
We're gonna try to do something during other festivals, on the Morgan, and we were in talk with the other businesses in actually Bridgeport currently, and that hopefully by year after we can actually spend and do more activation through the festivals. So. Yeah.
That's it, y'all. Enjoy it. Meet people, meet one another. We got venue owners in the room. We got art brokers in the room. We got artists in the room. We got podcasters in the room. It's small, but it's a mighty group here. So make sure you meet somebody new.
Jeff, I know we ended. I just ask you one question.
Sure.
Why did you title it Power of Belief, and what does that mean?
Yeah, it's really simple that in this time, I think that we have to really lean into faith and hope as ways to pull us through. And if you turn on the news every day, if you watch and look at social media every day, you would believe that we're doomed. And we're on a doomed path. And God is the author and finisher of my faith, and I think He's the author and finisher of all of our faith. Like there's a higher power at play, and nobody in the White House, nobody in the mayor's office, nobody, they don't determine our outcomes. So I think I wanted to paint and have a series that leaned into belief. Belief in our young people too. The reason why it's kids is because I think that our young people have, they feel disconnected, they feel forgotten about. I know they do, they tell me. They don't feel like they've been heard. So I wanted to also show I believe in you too. And there's a group of people, and many of you in this room that volunteer with Chicago Scholars and other orders that I know believe in our young people. So I got one of the dopest in the room, man, McCoffrey Cersei, the owner of Fortune House, who I won't tell his age, but how long you had your space? Yeah.
This one now, 6 years. We started in 2020.
Yeah, and I can tell you he's not 30. That's what I can tell you. And I can tell you that he's created a space where young people, young artists, talented curators, they have a safe space to go to create their own vibe, but also to sell their work, to have their work on display. And you know, he's got great familial support. He's a alum at Chicago College, but he did this. I met him at 19. He told me then, this is what I'm doing. And he was building it at 18, 19 years old. So I just think, again, we have to support, we have to amplify, we have to elevate our young people. And I'm at the place, like I tell people, I say it often, I am good moving from fierce warrior to trusted advisor. At my age, and I'm not old, but I'm old enough, I want to move into the place where I can advise, I can write checks, I can connect, and I can support, and then be shielding to avoid the same roadblocks and potholes that I hit. And that's the work. But we have to start to do that work. So.
I think the title beautifully captured with the image too. Always like the movement and the moment that he captured, like images we chose, I think definitely capture that moment of belief. Like even certain gesture like this, even the kite, it kind of capture that essence, the belief that you're talking about. And also like a lot of the image, I'm sure you can choose to paint realistically, but it has the elements, but at the same time, you can relate to the image because it's not somebody, like it's not Jeff's face, right? Even though he referenced it and, you know, trying to connect his history into the work, but because of the execution of the work, you can relate to the work. You know.
That is actually very intentional where like,
yes,
I would use, I've done realism. You can see pieces where I've done it. There's on my website, you can see like, okay, you can do that.
Yes.
I intentionally don't like do super detailed faces. What I found is collectors don't always love it. They like to reimagine what it is, who it could be. They want to see something in it, so I leave.
They can relate to it.
Yeah, and I read Kerry James Marshall. He talks about that where he said, I wanted to leave the viewer enough space to experience what that is for them, and they create the rest of the story. They fill in the story. It's almost like a book where you can start to create the pictures and images in your head. That's why I paint like this. And Kerry James Marshall, that's the influence. Like him, I named him Hebrew, Dwight, those folks, you know, Amy Sherrard, they are like heavily influential. Amy, you can tell with the blues and the grays. Like I take nuggets out of a lot of those folks in their work. All right, let's stop talking. Let y'all hang out.
Thank you.
Hey, how you doing? Good to see you.
Say thank you to you.
I thought so. When I came out the store, yeah, thank you for coming. I appreciate it. The music back up. How you doing, man? Nice to meet you. Thank you, man. I appreciate you coming. Oh, yeah. It's a blessing. They really support me.